The unity government has made it clear that Malaysia will elevate its role in international affairs, particularly with its neighbours in ASEAN, as well as the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation (OIC) and the international community as a whole. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said to achieve this, the country needs competent core professionals at the ministry.
Speaking at the Foreign Ministry's Idul Fitri event, the Premier commended the ministry's officials, saying they have proven their impeccable credentials in serving the nation and promoting Malaysia's policies and Madani ideas at the international level. He said in his limited experience serving the country for the last 6 months and visiting several countries, whatever little success that he had registered was mainly due to the indefatigable commitment shown by the ministry's officials.
That makes me proud. The way you work, you slog, you prepare the notes, sometimes too much for me to bear, but a very tedious job, comprehensive reports, and the level of competence is remarkable. I was in, as you know, China, Cambodia, Indonesia, and again ASEAN, in Indonesia, Brunei, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines. I hope I don't miss much. Too many, even Turkey during the earthquake. And I must say that I'm proud to be associated with the officials of the foreign ministry, the various embassies. They have taken this job very seriously to serve our country.
Since appointed in November last year, Datuk Seri Anwar has made 10 international trips to 9 countries. Among others are Indonesia, Brunei, Singapore, Thailand, and the latest Indonesia for the 42nd ASEAN Summit.
Malaysia and Indonesia are geared up for a 2-day joint mission to Brussels beginning 30th May to deliberate on issues pertaining to recent developments in the European Union, particularly the EU deforestation regulation that is negatively impacting the palm oil industry. Besides the two countries, Honduras has also given its commitment to join the mission.
According to Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof, who is also Minister of Plantation and Commodities, the mission is to seek engagement with the European Commission because, despite all the initiatives that have been done by Malaysia and Indonesia in terms of taking care of the environment, the oil palm industry is still facing challenges imposed by the EU.
But what is more important is to send the message, a strong message actually, that palm oil actually has contributed a lot, in particular compliance with UN SDG, that is to address poverty issues, and that we have achieved. And that's why there are so many smallholders. Whatever action taken by EU without negotiating or without engaging with us will definitely implicate or impact the smallholders.
He said this after chairing the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries CPOPC 11th Ministerial Meeting in Kuala Lumpur. For the Malaysian market, the EU accounts for 9.4% of Malaysia's export volume, or 1.47 million tonnes of palm oil. Both Malaysia and Indonesia hope that the EU would recognise the Malaysian sustainable palm oil and Indonesian sustainable palm oil standards.
There is no need to panic about the COVID-19 situation in Tuaran, Sabah, which has been categorized as a red zone because most of the recorded cases involve individuals with no symptoms and mild symptoms. Health Minister Dr. Zaliha Mustafa said the situation in Sabah was also under control and cumulative number of cases recorded in the state was currently less than 100 cases a week.
She said the COVID-19 cases that had been reported recently were not severe, as those infected were only required to undergo isolation without having to be admitted to hospitals.
Tapi kalau ada kes 3, 4 dan 5 kategorinya yang agak teruk sedikit, kebanyakan kes yang kita dapati adalah kes-kes yang berumur 60 tahun ke atas dan juga mereka-mereka yang ada komorbid, maksud kencing manis ke.
Sabah Deputy Chief Minister Datuk Dr. Joachim Gunsalam reportedly said Tuaran had been categorised as a red zone for COVID-19 due to the sudden increase in positive cases over the past week, where the district recorded 26 new cases compared to 18 cases the week before. Overall, the number of new cases in the 19th epidemiological week throughout Sabah increased by 68% to 64 cases, compared to 38 cases the previous week.
The installation of the first track of the East Coast Rail Link ECRL project involving the route from Gebeng, Pahang to Dungun, Terengganu is scheduled to start at the end of this year. It involves a 90-kilometre route and is expected to be completed in 3 to 4 months before the installation work continues from Gebeng to Maran.
Malaysia Rail Link Sdn Bhd MRL Regional Construction Manager Pahang, Khairi Khalid Abdul Rahman, said the installation work starts in Gebeng because the equipment used, including track laying machines from China, are coming to Kuantan in line with the project planning. As for the work on bridges, Khairi Khalid said the installation of viaduct beams is progressing well, with about 5 kilometres of the bridge route in Pahang done so far, adding the bridge is expected to be completed by the end of this year or early 2024. As for the Genting Twin Tunnel, which will be the longest rail tunnel in Southeast Asia when it is completed, Khairi Khalid said that so far the tunnel excavation that crosses the Titiwangsa Range has reached more than 2.5 kilometres for each tunnel. The tunnel is expected to be completed in the second quarter of 2025.
Lembaga Tabung Angkatan Tentera LTAT is firmly on track in its bid to privatise Bosted Holdings Berhad BHP. In a statement, LTAT said the latest shareholdings of LTAT in BHP is approximately 90.49%, accumulated via open market acquisition as well as through shareholders' acceptances of the offer.
It said as the date of the offer notice, the shareholdings held by LTAT in BHP stood at 59.42%. LTAT issued a notice on the conditional voluntary takeover offer to the BHP board on 2nd March 2023 for the remaining 40.58%. It did not hold for a cash offer of 85.5 cents per share. Chief Executive Datuk Nazim Rahman said this latest development is a significant milestone as it puts LTAT in a position to delist BHP within the first closing date of 22nd May 2023, subject to all regulatory approvals being obtained to fulfill the offer conditions.
Malaysia is such a unique country, celebrating Aidilfitri for a whole month compared to other countries that only celebrate it for a day. This uniqueness not only can be experienced by local Malaysians but also by people from all over the world travelling to Malaysia. Let's delve into their experience celebrating Aidilfitri in Iskandar Putri Johor with Erwin Zaid.
More than 100 travellers from across continents attended Aidilfitri Open House organised by Iskandar Investment Berhad IIB to experience first-hand of the liveliness of the festive season. International attendees consist of residents, students, teachers, corporate individuals and tourists, all donned up in colourful traditional Malaysian outfits.
We take this opportunity to actually gather our stakeholders from different layers of communities around Iskandar Putri. So we actually have the foreign student population in EduCity. We have their parents who are running business here in Madini.
The vast variety of traditional Malaysian food is a sight to behold for them, consisting flavours that are unique from the food in their respective countries. Among the bites, ketupat, rendang and lemang. Aside that, these travellers are in awe with the hospitality they receive from Malaysian, which some of them considered it the best in the world.
I love all the delicious food, which of course is something Malaysia is really known for, and especially Johor. And I really understand why tourists come here, especially Singaporeans. Very colourful, and it's just very tasty, and the texture of the food is so different.
Fantastic experience. I think that Malaysian hospitality has no rivals. The people are so friendly, so warm, and I really enjoy it. And especially this event, the decoration is like fantastic. When I came in, it's like, wow, like, you know, you're in Star Wars or something.
And I think Malaysia, celebrating Eid in Malaysia, it was a beautiful experience. We had people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different countries come up over here and, you know, be together and celebrate Eid together. Oh, Malaysian food? I think it's amazing. I'm an Indian, so a bit of Malaysian food comes from India too, such as biryani.
I like that everyone gets together, even if we are Chinese or Malay, Indian, everyone gets together for quite a long time. Yeah, so it's unity of Malaysia.
This initiative can not only bring good impact on the relationship between Malaysian and international people, but it can also give good impression to our country, hence making Malaysia as a country to be proud of. Erwin Zaid, RTM.
Bashar al-Assad set to attend Arab League summit that's coming up in the foreign front. At least 9 people died in Italy's northern Emilia Romagna region as heavy rains flooded rivers and submerged entire neighborhoods and farmland yesterday, prompting the cancellation of this weekend's Imola Grand Prix. Downpours that pounded the region's flatlands over 2 days caused nearly 24 rivers to burst their banks, putting vast stretches of territory underwater and causing thousands of residents to be evacuated.
In nearby Forlì, southeast of the regional capital Bologna, Mayor Gianluca Zartini said his city was on its knees, devastated and in pain. Regional authorities confirmed 9 dead, with most in the area around Forlì and Cesena. Flooding occurred in 41 municipalities, while an even greater number reported landslides. Thousands of farms in the fertile agricultural area were affected, but Agriculture Minister Francesco Lollobrigida said the water would have to subside before the government could quantify the damage. 2 of the bodies in Forlì were recovered by divers on Wednesday morning as part of a huge rescue effort involving emergency services, armed forces, and over 1,000 volunteers. One of Italy's richest regions, Emilia Romagna, had already been hit by heavy rain 2 weeks ago, causing floods that left 2 dead. The flooding caused the cancellation of Sunday's Formula 1 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix scheduled in Imola, with organisers saying they could not guarantee the safety of fans, teams and staff.
Russia and Ukraine agreed to extend a deal allowing grain exports across the Black Sea, a rare example of cooperation as the war rages. The grain deal was welcomed by the United Nations and United States, though both called for more certainty over the exports, as Russia has threatened to end the pact, which is crucial to global food security.
President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey, which has a central role in the grain deal, announced a 2-month extension, saying Russia had agreed not to block ships from leaving 2 Ukrainian ports. He thanked Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky, and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres for their roles in extending the agreement. Russia Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said the deal had been extended order to help countries in need, but added that Russia's overall assessment of the situation regarding the deal had not changed. Kiev said it was grateful to the United Nations and Turkey for their efforts in strengthening food security. Ukraine was one of the world's major grain exporters before Russia invaded in February last year.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad will attend this week his first Arab League summit in 13 years, signaling regional reintegration after more than a decade of war. The host of tomorrow's summit, Saudi Arabia, has championed Assad's return to the pan-Arab body and invited the Syrian leader over the objection of other regional leaders.
The Syrian government had been isolated in the region for years since its brutal crackdown on pro-democracy protests in 2011 triggered a war that has killed more than 500,000 people. Analysts say Assad's invitation also shows the clout of Saudi Arabia, which is casting itself as a peacemaker and asserting itself in multiple crises across West Asia. Following a preparatory meeting on Wednesday, Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad told reporters Assad would attend Friday's event in Jeddah in person. Beyond rekindling ties with the Assad government, the summit is expected to devote energy to two conflicts: a month-long war between two generals in Sudan and the 8-year civil war in Yemen. It is taking place in the same city where representatives of the two Sudanese camps have been locked in negotiations for a week and a half, brokered by Saudi and US officials.
More than 30 people have been killed in clashes between herders and farmers in central Nigeria's Plateau state. The region on the dividing line between Nigeria's mostly Muslim north and mainly Christian south has for years struggled with ethnic and religious violence.
Plateau State Commissioner of Information and Communication Dan Manjang said the clashes took place on Monday between herders who are most often Muslim and farmers who are generally Christian. Police said the violence took place in various villages in Boy in Mangu district. Security officials were deployed to the area where they engaged the hoodlums, a term used in Nigeria to describe criminals. The violence in northwest and central Nigeria had spiraled from tit-for-tat killings into the broader criminality, with heavily armed gangs attacking villages for raids, mass kidnapping and looting. The chairman of Mangu district has imposed a 24-hour curfew, he added, to ensure that the crisis does not escalate to other areas.
4 children from an indigenous community in Colombia were found alive in the south of the country more than 2 weeks after the plane they were traveling in crashed in thick jungle. The plane, Cessna 206, was carrying 7 people on a route between Amazonas and Guaviare province when it issued a Mayday alert due to engine failure in the early hours of 1st May.
3 adults, including the pilot, died as a result of the crash and their bodies were found inside the plane. The 4 children aged 13, 9 and 4, as well as an 11-month-old baby survived the impact. Preliminary information from the Civil Aviation Authority, which coordinated the rescue efforts, suggests the children escaped the plane and set off into the rainforest to find help. Rescuers, supported by search dogs, had previously found discarded fruit the children ate to survive, as well as improvised shelters made with jungle vegetation. Airplanes and helicopters from both Colombia's Army and Air Force participated in the rescue operations.
Still to come in sports, Man City outclassed Real Madrid to reach UCL final. Stay with us. Manchester City marched into the Champions League final for the second time in 3 seasons after outclassing holders Real Madrid 4-0 for a 5-1 aggregate victory at a raucous Etihad Stadium early this morning. Bernardo Silva's first half double put City in control against the 14-time European champions, while an own goal by Eder Militao after the break and late fourth from Julian Alvarez sealed the deal for Pep Guardiola's side as they avenged last year's bitter semi-final loss.
With Inter Milan awaiting in the final, City will now be huge favourites to finally deliver the trophy Abu Dhabi Sheikh Mansour has craved since buying the club in 2008, having lost to Chelsea 2 years ago. City are now unbeaten in 26 home matches in the competition, and that run was never in danger once Portuguese midfielder Silva whipped a shot past Thibaut Courtois in the 23rd minute and then headed his side second in the 37th. The second half was almost a formality as holders Real, bidding to win the trophy for a 6th time in 10 seasons, were outplayed by a relentless City side closing in on a treble. And there was no way back for Carlo Ancelotti's team when Kevin De Bruyne's free kick flicked off Militao in the 76th minute. Alvarez put the icing on the cake of a memorable night for City with a clinical finish after coming on as a late replacement for Erling Haaland.
Reacting to the massive win, manager Pep Guardiola said Manchester City were perfectly prepared with the right mix of calmness and tension for their clash against Real Madrid.
One of the highest, considering the opponent, Real Madrid, semi-final Champions League. Of course, you have to perform well, and we did it, especially in the first half. It was really good.
Guardiola said the players, staff and families would gather for a team breakfast before enjoying a day off ahead of their preparations for their final push to clinch the Premier League title. With their place in the Istanbul showpiece secured, City can win their 5th Premier League title in 6 seasons this weekend. They also have an FA Cup final to look forward to.
Yeah, we're closer. Yeah. Let me win the first 2. Let me win the listen, at the end we have the Premier League, we are close. You know, we need one more game. And I would say when you play against our neighbors and the final Champions against the Italian team, it's big count. So the season is really good. We make happy our fans, you know, all around the world watching us. They saw a good team playing. This is the biggest compliment. Come on, it's not going to change now. But we are close, and of course we're going to try.
Brentford and England striker Ivan Toney has been banned from football for 8 months and fined £50,000 after admitting to 232 breaches of the Football Association's FA betting rules. Toney will not be able to play for club or country until 16th January next year, and he has been warned as to his future conduct.
The sanctions were imposed by an independent regulatory commission after a personal hearing. The 27-year-old was charged by the FA in November for allegedly breaching the rules 232 times between 2017 and 2021. He was charged with 30 more alleged breaches in December, but the FA subsequently withdrew 30 of these breaches, and he admitted to the remaining 232. Toney can return to training for the final 4 months of his suspension starting from 17th September. As for Brentford FC, the club is currently awaiting the publication of the written reasons of the Independent Regulatory Commission before reviewing their next steps. Toney has scored 20 goals in 33 league games for Brentford this season, helping them to 9th in the Premier League standings. He will miss Saturday's trip to Tottenham Hotspur and the final game of the season at home to leaders Manchester City on 28th May.
Portuguese prosecutors and tax authorities investigating €58 million in illegal payments relating to soccer transfer deals carried out 60 searches, mainly in Lisbon and Porto, on Wednesday, including at the offices of leading soccer clubs Benfica, Porto and Sporting.
The Public Prosecutor's Office of the Central Department of Investigation and Criminal Action said the searches had been carried out on business premises, including the offices of lawyers and accountants as well as residences. The clubs have confirmed their offices were searched and said they were collaborating with the authorities. The raids were part of a large investigation called Offside, which started in 2015 after alerts from the Portuguese banking system about suspicious transactions of millions of euros. More than 100 searches have been carried out in offices, residences and soccer clubs in recent years. Luis Felipe Vieira resigned as president of Lisbon club Benfica in 2021 after being detained as part of an investigation into alleged tax fraud and money laundering.
Holger Rune sent an off-colour Novak Djokovic tumbling out of the Italian Open on Wednesday as the talented Dane prevailed 6-2, 4-6 and 6-2 in an epic battle against the defending champion to secure his place in the semi-finals. Rune outlasted Djokovic in 3 sets in last year's Paris Masters final, and the 20-year-old got off to the perfect start in search of another upset by breaking the world #1 in the opening game of the match.
The 7th seed showcased his aggressive style and mixed up his game with some delicate drops to raise ahead 4-1 as Djokovic looked uncomfortable in between points, having admitted a day earlier that he was dealing with a physical issue. Ferocious hitting from both players marked the start of the decider, but a dominant Rune pounced on Djokovic's serve en route to a 4-0 lead and completed a famous win on his own delivery in a rare spell of sunshine. Djokovic will relinquish the top ranking to Spaniard Carlos Alcaraz before the 28th May to 11th June French Open, where the Serbian will look to claim a men's record 23rd Grand Slam title, having gone level with Rafa Nadal by winning the Australian Open.
And that ends updates at noon. Wrapping up with a recap of our top story: Malaysia to elevate its role to international affairs. Tune in to Malaysia tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on saluran Berita RTM. And we leave you with a visual from last night's Cambodian SEA Games closing ceremony. I'm Renee Fong. Thanks for watching and have a pleasant afternoon.
មានមោទនភាពតែកើតជាកូនខ្មែរគោរពពុកម៉ែជនជាតិខ្មែរទាំងអស់គ្នាមរតកប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្រសម្រាប់កម្ពុជាស៊ីហ្គេមប្រកួតគ្នាលើទឹកដីសុវណ្ណភូមិយុទ្ធខំបុកកណ្ដោគុណខ្មែរពីបុរាណ